Sudanese Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok called on head of the Sudan Liberation Movement, Abdel Wahid Noor, and head of a wing of the Sudanese People's Liberation Movement North, Abdel Aziz Al-Hilo, to join the peace efforts in the country. Upon his return from Juba, Hamdok said his government is keen to meet with them in the near future to reach comprehensive peace to serve the interests of the Sudanese people. The premier hailed the role played by South Sudan's President Salva Kiir, the mediation team, and the people. Hamdok stressed that the deal creates a new Sudanese state and remedies all injustice of the past. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo called today for Turkey and Greece to reduce tensions over disputed maritime rights and gas resources in the Eastern Mediterranean. Greece has accused Turkey of violating its sovereignty by pushing ahead with natural gas exploration activities in disputed waters southwest of Cyprus. Both countries deployed naval warships to the area in shows of force, elevating concerns over a possible clash. Hamas movements and the Israeli occupation agreed to a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip following 3 weeks of border violence. In a statement issued immediately after the ceasefire was announced, the head of Hamas's political office in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, said the agreement would contribute to containing escalation and stopping the Israeli aggression on the Gaza Strip. Following the truce agreement, Israel reopened the only commercial crossing through which goods and fuel can pass to the enclave at Kerem Shalom after restrictions had been imposed 3 weeks ago, stopping fuel supplies, which resulted in power cuts throughout Gaza. The U.S. State Department said that on the guidance of President Donald Trump, the U.S. is suspending some aid to Ethiopia over the lack of progress in the country's talks with Egypt and Sudan over a massive disputed dam project it's completing on the Nile River. A State Department spokesperson said the decision to temporarily pause some aid to a key regional security ally reflects U.S. concern about Ethiopia's unilateral decision to begin to fill the dam before an agreement and all necessary dam safety measures were in place. It's not clear how many millions of dollars in aid are being affected or for how long. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo announced sanctions on the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court (ICC), Fatou Bensouda, objecting to an investigation of U.S. soldiers for alleged war crimes in Afghanistan. Pompeo said other ICC officials have already faced denial of visas to the United States over the investigations of U.S. military personnel. The move came after U.S. President Donald Trump authorized sanctions on the Hague-based tribunal on June 11th for probing and prosecuting U.S. troops. A cheap and readily available steroid has been found to significantly reduce the risk of death for patients experiencing serious symptoms of COVID-19. Research from the UK's University of Bristol found that hydrocortisone, an anti-inflammatory steroid, reduces the risk of death in seriously ill patients by 31%. The research also found that 2 other anti-inflammatory drugs reduced the risk of death in seriously ill patients by 20%. Some studies have previously pointed to the effectiveness of hydrocortisone and other steroid drugs in treating seriously ill COVID-19 patients. Saudi bank deposits edged up in the second quarter compared to a year earlier, according to a report from KPMG. Deposits rose 3% to $496.5 billion compared to the year earlier period, despite mounting pandemic-related pressures elsewhere in the banking system. The Saudi banking sector reported an average increase of 41.4% in expected credit losses for the 3-month period ended June 30, 2020 to $2.293 billion. Sales of Lego jumped 14% in the first 6 months of the year as families under coronavirus lockdowns spent more time playing together at home, the Danish toy maker said on Wednesday. Family-owned Lego has returned to growth since 2017, when a decade of double-digit sales increases came to an abrupt halt. Since then, the company has managed to outpace growth in the overall toy market, a trend that continued between January and June. Best known for its colorful plastic bricks, Lego competes for market share with the likes of Barbie maker Mattel and Hasbro. In a Bahrain exhibition center that used to hold jewelry shows and book fairs before the coronavirus pandemic, Mohammed Al-Broushi and other masked volunteers waited for a dose of a Chinese trial vaccine. Chinese drug giant Sinopharm began testing a COVID-19 vaccine in Bahrain in August after starting a similar trial on 15,000 subjects in the nearby United Arab Emirates a month earlier. The trial is due to finish next July, while the overall study is forecast to be completed by September 2021, according to the U.S. National Library of Medicine. Jordan has said it will reopen its main airport to regular flights from next Tuesday after an almost 6-month shutdown over novel coronavirus fears. The move comes as the Desert Kingdom, which depends heavily on tourism, tries to revive an economy badly hit by the pandemic. The kingdom, which has recorded 2,161 cases of the virus, including 15 deaths, imposed a tough curfew enforced with drones to curb the spread of COVID-19 before easing measures in early June. The Special Criminal Court in Riyadh sentenced to death on Wednesday 7 terrorists for carrying out the 2014 Al-Dawla attack in Al-Ahsa in eastern Saudi Arabia. The court ordered the death penalties, including execution and crucifixion, to the first 4 defendants and the death penalty for defendants number 6, 7, and 12. The defendants number 8, 10, and 11 were sentenced to 25-year jail terms starting from the date of their detention. The court also ruled to confiscate weapons, ammunition, and bullets seized from the defendants. French President Emmanuel Macron pledged support for Iraq on Wednesday and said the main challenges facing the country are IS militants and foreign interference in its internal affairs. Macron's visit is the first by a Western leader to Iraq since Prime Minister Mustafa Kadhimi took office in May, becoming the third head of government in a chaotic 10-week period that followed months of deadly protests. Macron's trip, straight from a 2-day visit to Beirut, was not publicly announced until Tuesday evening, with officials in Paris and Baghdad keeping a tight lid on arrangements for security reasons. French President Emmanuel Macron is adopting the carrot-and-stick approach in his talks with the Lebanese political elite. He reiterated that any support to Lebanon to overcome its financial and economic crisis should be closely linked to the implementation of actual reforms. The French president warned that leaving Lebanon alone and refraining from helping it means going into civil war. He is aware that he is putting his credibility and that of his country at stake if he fails to push Lebanese officials to cooperate. Pope Francis warned that Lebanon faces extreme danger that threatens the very existence of the country following the massive August 4th Beirut port explosion. The leader of the Catholic Church focused on the disaster-hit country after the blast ripped through the capital Beirut, killing more than 180 people and wounding at least 6,500. The Pope said at his first limited audience with the public in 6 months because of the coronavirus crisis, Lebanon cannot be abandoned to its solitude. Yemeni Prime Minister-designate Ma'in Abdel Malik resumed discussions with political parties on reforming a cabinet after the Southern Transitional Council (STC) rolled back its decision to suspend its participation in government formation talks. The STC had suspended its participation in protest to military escalation and poor public services in areas liberated from Houthi militias. After meeting with an STC delegation headed by Nasser al-Khabji, Abdel Malik announced that an agreement was established to resume government formation consultations.